This is the Business Marketing and Finance Podcast, the podcast for all your business marketing and financial needs. Get insight from experienced professionals as they delve deep into their passions and share their knowledge each week with your host, Daryl James. Like to follow or learn more? You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button now.
Welcome everyone to this week's BMF podcast. I'm your host, Daryl James, and my next guest has spent the last 7 years marketing, designing for brands such as The Sweet Life, Rent the Runway, and FounderMade. Now self-employed creative director and dynamic speaker, welcome China Drewitt to the Business Marketing Finance podcast.
Hi Daryl, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Great to have you on the show as well. Now China, can you tell us a bit about your journey, what it was like growing up, and how you made a turning point to being the woman who you are today?
Wow, what a big question.
Straight away.
Yeah, so I was super academic when I was younger. I was a A-star student all around the block. And then, so my one goal in life was to just go to university and be the first person in my extended family to do so.
Sure.
So I went to university to study philosophy. And I loved the English language and anything to do with writing and just deep study, ancient Greek, things like that. So it was a bit of a curveball when I was 19 and 1 year into my studies I decided I wanted to leave university to go and be a singer-songwriter, which quickly I got a couple of jobs. I wrote my own EP. It was very scrappy. And I released this EP, just on MySpace. I think it was still at the time.
I remember that. I remember MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace. And I got like a stack of I must have been 30 EPs, and I made a list of all like the A&R teams and stuff I was going to send them out to.
Sure.
And then actually a lady that lived down the road from me in Bromsgrove, Worcestershire, who had a background in the music industry and had recently bought a studio to the area. She said, don't do that. Let's work together, and I'm gonna just invest myself and my time in building a record with you for the next year or so and see how it goes. So that's what we did, and ultimately it ended in me creating a record label with her and an A&R team down in London, which was very exciting, called Tantrum Music. And then that housed me as a recording artist, and I learned to become a bit of a hustler during this process. We did things because I was such a heavily branded artist, and I was gaining quite a lot of traction in terms of YouTube hits. I had about 13,000 Facebook followers and as many Twitter followers. I got over 1 million hits on YouTube.
And what year was this?
Oh, what year was this? So I must have been about 21, 22.
Yeah.
So, goodness, so 2012, 13.
Yeah, wow,
and so, I did that, and then I became a bit of a hustler because I needed to make money while I was, writing this record, and I would get retainers for sponsorship and stuff. I would go and do a lot of gigs, but it was very much a business-centric experience of being, I wasn't protected as an artist, so I was very much in the deep end, diving into trying to do any kind of deal with any kind of partner I could that felt aligned to the brand that was me as an artist, to make money basically along the way. So that gave me a really good foundation for understanding what it takes to build any kind of business, I suppose.
That's true.
And it all went Pete-tong for various reasons, which are actually pretty ugly, terrible reasons, but story for another day. But the music industry is an interesting one. So I quit all of that. I moved to London. I got a job as a intern for a digital creative agency that basically hired me out of 200 other candidates on the basis that I had pink hair and I had over 1 million YouTube hits, and so I must know social media. So they brought me in, and I guess I blagged it really because I was just I've never really had any fear when it comes to asking for things. That's good.
That's good.
So I didn't have any problem with just selling my car and going down and sleeping on sofas in London and being a club promoter, and then being I know I'm going to get a job, no problem, and just again dived in deep when I got the job. And then 6 months into that, they offered me a full-time role at the agency, which to me, because I'd been so the last like 2 years have been so rock and roll in so many ways, and I'd been entrepreneurial and resourceful. It felt really static, and it felt claustrophobic, the idea of working for somebody else full time and having this like routine and not being in like high states of alert, continually panicking about when my next income stream's coming from. So I actually turned that down. It coincided with a second job opportunity in New York. So I felt like more for me, like if I'm turning this stuff down, it really put a fire in my belly to be an entrepreneur. So I moved back home to Bromsgrove, in with my parents. I remember there was one very dramatic moment. So I went freelance straight away. Sorry, just to backtrack. As a graphic designer, as those are the skills I'd acquired at the agency in London. And I remember there was one moment I lost my hard drive.
I know what that's like.
And it didn't just feel like losing my hard drive, it felt like my whole life had gone when I lost my hard drive. And I remember I was at home, I felt like a loser because I felt like I'd said no to all these amazing things. Like, I folded the record label, like, I turned down my dream job that other people would have killed for, you know? And I thought, God, I'm so ungrateful for not wanting any of these things that other people would just absolutely love to have. I was feeling very ungrateful and sorry for myself. I think I was about 24 at this point. Really just lost the plot for about 15 minutes, deleted all my online presences. And I was like, I'm going incognito, starting again. And then, you know, a week or so later, I came out of my hole and I realised that I could no longer live at home and, you know, just freelance in this capacity. I was coasting really. And so then I thought, right, I'm ready to get stuck into my next venture. Started a t-shirt company.
Oh, nice.
Called Girl Bait, which, on reflection, was a terrible name to call this brand because it sounded like jailbait. And it just set that trigger off of people's minds. I mean, my idea was it's just like an alluring, girl empowering brand, and like.
What was your model, your business model with the t-shirt brand? Did you print in-house or did you have a third-party print for you? Was it set up a website, or how did you make it happen? So I'm just going to backpedal slightly because when I first went freelance, my first client was a swimwear technology company. And so I was very, very much involved in the project management side of sourcing all of the materials for the product as it was going to be launched later that year. So that got me really interested in procurement. And so that then I think directly led into me feeling confident enough to start a clothing brand. You know, comboed with my experience as being a graphic designer and knowing that I could make really cool prints for the shirts, and I had something to say, so I was like, triple threat, got the whole thing. So the business was it was just me. I sourced all of I sourced the cheapest shirts I could. It was very simple. It was just t-shirts to begin with. And then I did all the printing myself and sent them off to be screen printed by the same company that also provided the shirt. So you know, it was very much like a very basic, anybody can do that online, but finding the right amount of shirts for the right price point is obviously the skill that's of the right quality, and you know, producing enough prints that people want. So I started out with 4 different prints. I bought like a roller banner home studio situation so I could make it look professional, shoot all the shots at home. And then what did I do for distribution? I think I had very much the Sophia Amoruso model in my head. She's the founder of Girl Boss. But previously she started the clothing brand Nasty Girl. You know about them? So Nasty Girl, back in the day, there was a massive cult hit with anybody that wanted to start a clothing brand. Like, it was like the one because she started on eBay and it was all selling vintage, and she was very creative and put looks together, and she was just a marketing phenomenon. Like it was like a real unicorn moment in terms of the world of like a girl that's like got nothing, who's just like, her parents, you know, nobody thinks she's going to do do anything, and then she she goes out into the world and just absolutely slays it and builds a multi-million-dollar clothing company out of her own mind. And so I had that, you know, in the forefront of my own mind as well. So I put out these 4 designs. In my younger years, I've always been a massive perfectionist, and it's something I've struggled with hugely. So I built out this
huge distribution model, like a timeline of what item was going to be released when, and I basically did everything except the most fundamental thing, which was actually testing the garments in the marketplace and seeing if anybody wanted them, or if there's even a demand for that kind of thing. And it was a combo of me not doing the fundamentals of marketing the product correctly, and then also a case of me losing interest because I was visionary with my mind all over the place. Again, still born in a China shop, wanting to just make things happen now, and losing interest and wanting to move on to the next idea. And then also having this deep rooted feeling of failure because I'd said no to things up to now, and I didn't feel like deserving of seeing something through or showing the stamina or persistence to see the business through. So basically it lost legs because I lost legs. And so I quit with that. The Girl Bait name, it actually really put a bad, a sour taste in my mouth about the clothing brand in general. Actually, one of my friends, she featured in a promo video. I did this amazing promo video for the brand. I was going to use all my existing YouTube subscriber following from my time as an artist to promote it. She was in the promo video, and later on, it was about a year later actually, her boss somehow saw this video and thought it was inappropriate. This was like very early on into like the girl empowerment movement when women were really, I mean, it sounds crazy, even just 5 years ago, like the way women are so, not aggressive, but very progressive now with the way they are about their femininity and being much more like body image aware and talking more openly about feminism. That's a new thing. So this video was very much on the cusp of that, and her boss was a male and she was in a very corporate environment, and he saw the video and she got fired. Wow. Okay. I mean, it was not grounds to fire her, you know. I think it was probably part of a bigger thing, but that was a real moment for me where I was like, I'm doing something so wrong here, and this feedback's negative, and I'm getting something wrong here. And I know it was because during my time, I know now, my time as an artist, I was overly sexualized by the people I was working with. I started off just like writing like dance pop music. There was an artist at the time, I think called Little Boots or something. I can't remember, but it was this really cutesy dance, like Euro vibe. Like I was just about, I want to just talk to girls through my music. My message has always been, I just want to help girls that are like me, that are feeling frustrated and want to feel free and like empowered. And the lyrics in my music were always about that. And then it turned into something else. Like I actually got all my lyrics out the other day, and I looked at them and I actually just wept and cried because I felt so upset that I'd let myself be sexualized in that way. And what a shame and what a misrepresentation of what I was actually trying to say. And I think that carried into the Girl Bait brand, where I just slightly got it wrong again. I'd still had that stigma attached to myself and the things I was doing, I think. It's a very personal, strange thing as a woman, realising that you don't have to be sexualised in order to get attention and to put something out in the world with integrity that people will still care about, regardless of the fact that you're like a woman with a body, and you don't have to talk about it. Very true. You don't have to talk about it. So that was that, and then that whole experience as an artist, feeling like I'd been assaulted on so many levels, like physically, mentally. I felt abused by my own experiences. I felt like this turned to a sob story, but I was letting myself down. I was like, I always professed when I was younger that I was going to be this big pop star, and the first thing I did was going to be the thing. And obviously, as you know, like being an entrepreneur is like a long and complicated road. Most entrepreneurs, they don't get there until like well into their 30s, you know, but they find the thing. But I didn't see any of that back then. So with this fire in my belly about all of my experiences and knowing that I now had this deep sense of anxiety and stress and not knowing who I was or what I wanted to be, and you know, bear in mind at this point I'm like 25 and all my friends are stable as hell, you know, and I'm like the least stable person I know. I haven't got the home, I haven't, like they say you need 3 things to feel happy, right?
Okay, go on.
What are you going to say?
Go on. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, my understanding is
yes.
it's having a roof over your head that's yours, that you're in control of, you know, financially, I assume. Having the partner and then having the career that you're satisfied by. And like I didn't have any of those things. I was 25 and felt kicked in the face about it, honestly.
And was that more because your friends was attaining those three things and you felt a little bit left behind?
Yeah, it wasn't so much feeling left behind. And even now, there are ways in which I feel vastly different to a lot of my friends. It was this gulf between us. So whenever we would hang out, I felt like an alien. I felt as if I'd existed for the past 25 years in a world that they hadn't existed in. And I didn't know how to bridge that gap in conversation. So different set of worries, you know, things that I can't. And now, like I'm for example, the relationship thing, I'm single now. Like I haven't been single on and off, like, for the past couple of years, but I feel more single than I've ever felt. And my friends are all getting married, and they're in firm, lovely, long, everlasting relationships. Like, and I'm so happy for them. But being so happy for them is separate from the fact that there is that gulf there still. I can't talk about that. I can't share. I don't feel I can share in their experience of being in love as much as they can with other people that are in love, because I'm not there. I'm still living like, you know.
you have had your own experience of love, though, right?
Yes, but never particularly happy for a long period of time, and always with with extremes, and only with emotionally unavailable men. Okay. And so I don't know if I've ever had the kind of love that is real love.
So here's the question. Do you feel that your friends and family could pick up on those things that you were feeling when you was in your relationship?
As in what, my unhappiness?
Yeah. Do you think they picked up on it, or would they? Do you think they would think, oh, I thought China was, doing well. I thought she was cool. She was happy with, this person. And the reason why I ask that is because sometimes when we look at, somebody else's relationship, we're only seeing the highlights. We're only seeing the best, that they are presenting right now. We're not there when they're having an argument set in the house, when other things are happening, when they may be doing things they shouldn't be doing as somebody in a relationship. So we're not seeing all those aspects from the outside in. So when they are becoming, Mr. and Mrs. or going off traveling together and things like that, sometimes you don't know what else is behind the scenes. Of course. In terms of feeling like, you're separate from that, or can't experience or talk about it the same way. Because if you have been in a relationship, then you are just as equal as them, or qualified to speak about relationships, because you've had your own experience. And whether it is you're going to be warning against something, or you're just participating in a happy time, like a birthday, for instance, and my partner bought me this, and that you've had birthdays where your partner bought you something, again, you can still experience it just the same, Yeah. Continue. Sorry.
That completely makes sense, and I'd not looked at it that way. I think it's wanting to be able to speak about it in the present though as well, because it gives me it makes me feel more relatable to the person I'm talking to if I can share in that in the present.
Okay, sure.
I completely hear what you're saying. For me, it's not just been the relationship thing. At least it wasn't at this point in my life when I was 25 or however old I was. It's all blurred now. It was the combo of going back to, what on earth am I doing? I'm about to start my millionth weird business. That's not been particularly tested, but it's just on a whim. And then living at home and knowing that I was beginning to earn quite good money because through my freelance work, and I felt so lucky to have that. And still this gnawing sense of my purpose is not being fulfilled, and why do I feel like this? Sorry, I feel thrown by this emotional tangent. So what underpinned all of that, of feeling so fragile and floating around in the ether, was again, I want to help women, and I want young women especially to preventatively be very self-aware every single day of their lives of how they're feeling and how to stop those feelings escalating into a mental health issue. So for me, it did. Like I became chronically ill with anxiety. Like I was. So about this time, and when I started this next business that I'll mention, I got into a terrible relationship. I know now it's because I was in such a bad place that I attracted that relationship. I wasn't aware I was in a bad place, by the way. That's what's so funny when you look back, isn't it?
That happens, yeah.
Yeah, you don't know it, and then you look back and you're like, I see what happened there. And the relationship, it just perpetuated my anxiety. It inflamed it. It was crazy. There was a lot of emotional manipulation going on, like gaslighting, just really rough stuff. And also, I released that person with love now, because I know that he felt so out of depth with my anxiety and didn't know what to do. Okay. You know, he didn't know how to handle it. He handled it in the worst possible way, sure, but didn't know how to handle it. And so, yeah, I became like for weeks at a time, I couldn't get out of bed. I was physically immobilized by my anxiety. I remember I would just sit on the floor and just have no energy. I'd have nothing in the tank, which, I mean, you've seen me, I'm a high energy person. For sure. To not be in that state, in my flow state of being high energy, was the most painful. I felt like, I know it wasn't, but I felt disabled. Like it was terrible. My freelance work as a graphic designer and my main client and the business that I helped start, FounderMade. My friend Megan and I, she lives in New York. She's an incredible woman. She's from Silicon Valley, and she's a machine. And she took me under her wing and said to me, I believe in you as a graphic designer, and I want you to come work for FounderMade. It's a summit series in the States, and I built out the whole brand. Like I made it look like this super next level, next gen entrepreneur summit, which is what it is, in order to attract all these cool brands to our show.
And did you meet her here, or did you meet her when you was traveling in the States? No,
so it was serendipity like you wouldn't believe. So she's like my sister. It's a once in a lifetime relationship I have with this woman. Like it's I feel so blessed, and nice. It was like a guardian angel stepped in. I was like, here's Megan. So when I was working at Wednesday, the agency in London, where I was an intern, my boss Ollie, he took me firstly under his wing, and we used to go for walks. Like this agency was in Shoreditch. We used to go for walks around Shoreditch, and he'd give me little pep talks about becoming myself, growing out my skin. And he said, "You've got to meet this girl, Megan. Like we're starting this bikini company together called Bikini with a Y, which actually now in Canada I think is still very much taking off." He said, "You've got to meet her. You guys are just going to love each other." I just know. And so Megan and I worked together on this swimwear technology brand. And so when I moved back to Bromsgrove from London, we were still working on this together. And then she got me my first proper client gig for a conference called Fashion Tech Forum, which is now a huge conference. This was the first one. It's absolutely superb. Like the format is amazing. They get all these fashion thought leaders together, put them on a stage. They bring together like the best, fashionistas, I don't know, in the city. And she got me that first job, and I remember she fought for me to be flown out for the event to New York. So my first trip to New York, I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. So he flew me out, they put me in a nice hotel. And then I remember I went to Fashion Tech Forum, which is the show I was working, so they flew me out for. And I saw Megan at the bar. I thought, that must be Megan, because we'd only spoken on the phone. I'd not even seen her face properly. But I recognised her from photos or whatever. And so I went up to her. She didn't recognise me at first, I remember. And then she did, and her face lit up. And it was just, from there on in, instant. Like, she took me to Bergdorf Goodman's for like a fancy brunch, and told me about how I think she was in business school at the time. She must have been early 30s. She's like late 30s now. And said, I'm going to start. What am I going to do? Like, I'm doing this now, but I know I want to start a massive business. And then FounderMade came to be literally like a month or so after that initial meeting. And then from there on in, we were just tight. We just worked together all the time, me remotely from the UK, and then gradually I started going to the States more and more, because FounderMade was events, and we used to have 4 events a year, and I would fly out for the events and creatively direct the events. And
beautiful. That's nice.
Yeah. So that's Megan, and that was that relationship. I think to go back around to where I started talking about her, it got me through this terrible time, this relationship where I was so immobilized by fear of, I think, him and myself, really. And it got me through, and it enabled me to just keep a little spark of confidence going the whole time. And she was like, I believe in you, like, you know, it was. So she held me up when I couldn't hold myself up.
And was it around this time where you started Girl Therapy?
So it was around this time I started Kid Life, it was called. 2 words, Kid Life. Kid Life was wellbeing workshops for children in schools aged 11 to 18.
Oh, cool.
I just knew I wanted to get stuck into helping young people, and I didn't want to get too precious about it being girls at this point. I just wanted to help kids preventatively handle their self-care and their daily lives. And also, again, this is going back, you know, even like 4 years ago, which I guess is what this was. Parents are just so uneducated through no fault of their own about how to handle, you know, a generation of children facing this epidemic of stress. I did a ton of like feedback circles and like workshops with parents who just were in deep with problems with their kids and didn't know how to help them. You know, like girls as young as 5 worrying about their weight, and boys showing extreme signs of anger, which was actually just stress because they felt under such pressure at school. Just a plethora of really sinister, awful things that are generational, and of course the parents aren't equipped to deal with it. So my opinion was, I don't know if equipping parents with the tools is the best thing when a child is like a preteen teen. I think give the child the tools themselves so that they can. I feel that if you empower people to make change themselves, they're much more likely to do so. Versus, I mean, at that age, they don't want to listen to their parents about anything, you know?
As we all were once upon a time.
Exactly. So launched these workshops. I went into schools, interestingly, and rather devastatingly, most schools turned me down due to budget. They loved it. It was private schools that took up the service. You know, I did it as cheap as I could. I was like, I still need this to be a business. Of course. And then not private schools that were interested, they wanted primary school children to receive the workshop and not the older kids, which for me was sobering in all the wrong ways, because I wanted to help children that were A, old enough to help themselves, and B, were at that critical moment in time.
Of course.
You know, where things could go one way or the other.
Very true.
Primary school children have a different set of problems, and it was a different need, and I didn't feel that was. It didn't sit right with me. I didn't feel like I was a girl for the job. So that business actually went well, but then because I'm crazy and impulsive, I spent like $2,000 on a booth at an expo. This was my first big mess up. Financial mess up. More to come.
Hey, it happens. It happens to everybody in business.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Spent tons of money on this booth. I was so buzzed for it. My mum was like to me, China, have you like checked that, you know, the people that are going to the show are decision makers? Are you going to actually see business from this? You're going to sell workshops? I was like, yeah, it's going to be great. You know, living the dream. Delusional. So my booth looked great. It was amazing. I realised a day into the show, because it was like a 3-day show or something, everybody there was primary school teachers. And it was just... Do you know what, though? I was like, bring it on, not phased. For me, money has only ever been something that just serves purpose. I don't care. Yeah, it's a tool. Yeah. And I was like, so what? I'll get more money.
Money's fluid, of course.
Yeah. Exactly. I've never been precious about money, and probably too relaxed about it. I was very glad when I learned about how to do a cash flow sheet, the financial forecast, basic skills, but needed. So Kid Life fizzled out because I just couldn't get the funding from schools. I hammered the phones. I cold called all day long. And it just reached a point about like 9 months in where I just couldn't sustain it. Like the effort I was putting in versus the gain was not there. And so Kid Life then moved, I remanifested it into a company called Well Jelly. Which was actually, it was going to be a monthly subscription box, a well-being subscription box for kids, and it contained all the like fun products and tools they needed to run a daily 6-step program from breakfast through to going to sleep. Very small, but just key things they could do in their day that would take like 60 minutes due to 5 minutes, just to calm them down and make them feel better, that cumulatively over time would have a dramatic effect on their well-being. You know, eating the right food, like getting enough sleep, like taking a break without a device, like things like that. That did not that lasted about a year, and what happened was I run myself into the ground with being in strategy mode instead of execution mode. I launched it when I was at a incubator called Entrepreneurial Spark, which is now actually at NatWest. NatWest have a incubator program which has a load of amazing businesses in it. And so I did a load of testing, endless feedback groups with parents, and I just basically ran myself into the ground with disinterest again because I was paralysed by my need to build all these perfect systems and create this business model that had to be flawless before I actually went and did anything about it and actually figured out if I could make a first sale.
I've been there for sure.
Have you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, so you mentioned a lot about your... Actually, no, continue about girl therapy, sorry. I was going to move on to the next question, but carry on.
I'm so close to the girl therapy, but we're getting there now. So actually, the Well Jelly subscription box idea flopped. But then I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to launch massive 1,000-person attended event, because I've been working in events for FounderMade for this point for 5 years or whatever, and I'm like, I'm going to launch a massive event in London. It's going to be a next gen wellness summit for kids, right? Everyone's going to show up. I had thousands of gift box donations donated to my parents' house. I've got all these cool wellbeing products. I booked 30 booths with vendors. I booked 30 speakers. One girl's flying in. I had Tiffany, whatever her name, from Made in Chelsea. There was so much buzz. I was going down to London every weekend to meet all these big influencers and book this summit. It was going to be the coolest show. So I put together this amazing event. I forgot to sell any tickets. It was like, you know that FYRE documentary on Netflix?
Oh yeah, FYRE Festival. It was like that. So that's what happened with that. And I tell you now, when I had to send that email to everybody that was involved in the show to tell them that the show wasn't happening because I think I sold about 30 tickets. So what was the issue with the tickets? Was it that it didn't go live quick enough? Yeah. So was it
timeline. Timeline. Okay. Yeah. I was out there on Oxford Street flyering. I was the weekend before, flying. I can put bums on seats for this. Yeah, timeline. I think everything else was good. And what's so funny was two things that are funny, which are a kick in the teeth. First thing was that there's a woman that was going to talk there called Mel Wells. I don't know if you know of her, but she's like a well-being influencer. She used to be in Hollywood. She's a cool chick. Pretty sure that the summit that she's running now is basically the same thing. Okay. I saw it the other day and I laughed my head off. I was like, because there's just no way. It was just too coincidental that she was going to talk, because she was so excited about it. Anyway, great. I take that as a compliment. No worries. Wasn't for me. The other thing that was a massive kick in the teeth was I signed a contract with a venue that made me liable $5 grand. Wow. And when you're a struggling entrepreneur, $5 grand is oh my God. And the owner of the venue, he was in Australia. I rang the venue in tears, I can't pay this. I'm sorry, I messed up. I know I'm an adult, but I messed up. What can we do? Please tell me, I'll do anything. This guy goes, look, I'm going to give you the number of the guy that is in Australia. You got one shot at this. And then he was like, do you know what? Actually, no, I'm going to call him. Because he really like felt for me at this point, this guy that's running the venue. He goes, you're going to maybe have to give me a couple of months to find out if I can get you off this $5,000.
Wow.
Literally, it was pretty much 8 weeks to start. Like, I'm like holding my breath this whole time. I felt my whole life was on hold because of this 5K. And I already felt humiliated and like rock bottom because it plummeted so badly. He like rings me up and he goes, yeah, do you know what? We're going to let you off this $5,000. And I just like sobbed down the phone. I was like, there is an angel, like, thank you, like, I owe you big for this, and whatever I can do. And it was like this weird karmic boomerang had come back around and like restored my faith in humanity and myself and everything. So I went from being rock bottom with Wild Jelly. That must have been about, I'm losing timeline of everything, about 4 years ago now. And then I was like, right, back to the plan, back to helping people, back to helping women with well-being and wellness and health and the whole picture from a very personal need, of course. And then I started girl therapy about a year ago. It started as intimate women's only group therapy sessions. Actually started, the first one's at Alpha Works. Oh, cool. We're here now, which is this really cool office space in Birmingham. And it basically was as simple as I had 10 women in a room, glowing orb. You would take turns in holding the orb and sharing laying out your problems on the table. From the first session, we had a woman in there whose best friend wanted to kill herself and she didn't know what to do. Another girl was suicidal. Another girl, her dad had disowned her. But then the beauty of this circle was that there were extreme things like that happening, but also women in there that just felt insecure on like a very, like, it's not a surface level, but felt insecure about things that they felt were menial. But this circle creates a shared space where no problem is too big or too small to be shared and talked about. And I knew I struck something. I couldn't like sustain it. I had so much demand for these group therapy sessions, and I couldn't afford to hire anybody to help me with it. I ran myself into the ground with it, so I was like, I'm going to take this back to community first. So for the last year, since initially launching those group therapy sessions, I have built a community of around 1,000 women who are interested in self-care and well-being and the self-love movement, specifically based in Birmingham. Millennial, 20, 30 something year old women who follow my daily WhatsApp texting service. And it's a daily text that you get at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. I call it a daily self-love pep talk, and it's explicit. There's a lot of, it's just like an emotional throw, like a wonderful mini message you get every day that's like a virtual best friend on your shoulder, telling you to lift yourself up and get on with the day, and you can do it. And we cover all kinds of topics from like, you know, how you feel at different times of the month because of your cycle versus like your boyfriend's just left you, your girlfriend's just left you, you know, life's hard because you're sick of seeing everyone on Instagram, so we cover all, you know, modern day stuff as well. And
is it just yourself that pulse in terms of from a admin point of view, or do the members actually interact with each other? And like, for instance, somebody just broke up with their boyfriend, do other members share their story and say, well, don't worry, in a year it will be fine, in 2 months you'll feel great? And do everybody else engage as well?
So it's a very, very good question, because the community is missing that component right now, and I would love nothing more than to put everybody in a moderated group chat in which they could do that. The issue with it is it requires exactly that, a lot of moderation. And because content is so sensitive and people would lose their, can I say this word right, anonymity? Is that the right word?
I think so, yeah. I believe so.
They would not be anonymous anymore, say it that way. It's very delicate, and it would be a massive time suck for me right now, and I'd want to do it right. I mean, I don't know if you've ever joined a Facebook group where you see how people really go to town in the comment sections.
Oh yeah.
And it every single part of it has to be moderated and screened and checked, and I'm just not ready to do that yet, but it is something I want to do in the future. Yeah. And
just to slightly move away from the kind of history side of things for yourself.
really have talked your ear off, Daryl.
No, it's good. No, it's very good. It's very informative, and it allows me and my audience to see China Drewitt, you know, in fullness. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your current role at the moment. So, can you tell us a bit more about your current role at your company that you started, the graphic design business that you have?
Oh, okay. So as in my bread and butter, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Sure. Yes. So FounderMade, and I'm going to call FounderMade a client, have been my main clients in terms of my graphic design services for the past 5 years. And I also work with other clients, mainly. Well, I prefer to work with lifestyle brands. If they're a lifestyle well-being brand, all the better, because I love working with brands that make me feel inspired. I recently worked, so I did one of my highlights working that I've worked with Kristen Sudeikis. She's Jason Sudeikis' sister, the actor. Amazing woman. She's a choreographer. She does loads of philanthropic work in New York. Goes to all these different communities where children don't have access to dance, and she like creates these amazing like dance experiences. She's like a real mover and shaker in the dance world. So I built her website. I've worked with her on her new project Forward Space, which is now a boutique dance studio based out of New York. I did Rent the Runway. I love doing presentations and pitch decks. I love knowing the ins and outs of people's business models and then building out decks that are going to help them secure partnerships, investments. I just love seeing how that brand story comes together. It's my favourite thing to do, honestly, is to create presentations like that. Oh, nice. Often clients will come to me with like the bare bones of what they want in their like critical like 10 slide deck, and it's just words, and then I bring it to life, you know. Excellent. So it's actually interesting. A lot of the work I do that I prefer to do is confidential because it's sensitive information for brands or their financials and stuff. So I love to work with creative brands, and I can do everything and anything really. And
do you have many people in your team, or is it solely about yourself? It's
me. So it's funny you say that. I have had moments in my career where I could have maybe grown into a mini agency and brought other people in. I have a very, very specific aesthetic as a designer. It is very Marmite, like, you know, clients either love it or they don't love it. But you know, they know that going in because they see my portfolio. And so I've never got to the point where I've wanted to grow my portfolio or create an agency. Honestly, my joy in being a graphic designer has been working with a team of women that I work with at FounderMade. It's much more about it's about the people that I've got to work with, and these experiences of flying out for these events and being with my family across the pond, as I call them, and just being in that environment of being surrounded by like the coolest brands in the world, which are the brands we host, and it's much more. I'd say like 8 out of 10, you know, parts of what made me love doing it are FounderMade related and specific to FounderMade. Oh, cool. And not I don't particularly get my thrills from working for new clients. But you know what?
I can understand. You have a relationship with them already, so it's already there, and
it's my baby.
You know them as well, and
I'm personally invested. Like anything FounderMade feels like I co-created that from the beginning, so it's my baby. So I care on a different level.
That's cool. Now, you help fuel brands. How do you yourself build your own personal brand?
Easily. Wait, hang on, when you say personal brand, what do you mean?
As in China Drewitt, how do you put yourself out there? How do you... I know your personality is fantastic, but in terms of, you know, you building on China Drewitt, do you have like being an influence in the graphic design, world? How do you build that?
Well, do you know, this is going to sound really arrogant. I never have, because all my work's been referrals. Good. And I'm pretty cute about that.
Good.
I ask clients for referrals. I'm not shy, as you can tell.
And where do you post these referrals? Is it LinkedIn or your own website or Facebook group, or where do you post these reviews and referrals?
I did have a website, and then I stopped paying for it. I'm not selling the dream as how to run a freelance business. It's come to me like effortlessly, honestly. I had a website where I just hosted my portfolio, and my advice would be like I've just kept it super clean. I listed like the top 5 clients I've worked with, so it felt super exclusive and high end. If you want to know more about my services, get in touch. I had one absolutely anthemic standout review from Megan actually at FounderMade, and you know, a few name drops about how I'd done ads for Entrepreneur and stuff, and you know, just a really great review. And I keep it simple. I send that one to prospective clients. And then referrals themselves. I have a client, they'll just put me in on an email to a friend that they have. And of course, like, it's the best way to get business. One and done.
For real. No, it's true.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Now, what top 3 platforms do you think businesses should focus on in the next year, and why?
Oh my goodness. Well, I keep hearing this TikTok situation is really taking off. Top 3 platforms, specific, what kind of businesses do you mean?
Any type of business, a startup business, a Fortune 500 business.
For marketing and exposure, you mean, like, in just to spread the word about their services and what they do? Oh my goodness. I'm actually really struggling to answer that question because I feel like we're on the cusp of a big change. I feel people are extremely desensitized about the platforms we have now as they are in terms of being marketed to. I think that brands need to focus on actually not so much worrying about the platform, but building incredible brand stories that drive emotion.
Very true.
Drive emotional connection with their customers. I work with a lot of consumer brands, and I see them all doing the same thing. They just post pictures of their products and buy this product, and it's so jarring. They would be better served to not talk about their products at all, honestly, and just to create a story that people connect with, and then right when they've got a super engaged community, then they hit them with the sell, and people already buy at that point because they're so invested in the brand. Of course, but a lot of consumer brands miss that. So in terms of platforms, I know that LinkedIn marketing done correctly is extremely powerful. It's not often talked about, but in terms of like B2B, and I think the meaning of B2B is changing because everybody's an influencer and everybody's got their own product or service or thing to sell. So I think the meaning of B2B is changing.
Very true.
So, you know, consumer are, you know, it's changing. Like, consumers are now becoming businesses too. And so everybody's got an agenda, and there's a way to sell to everybody as a business. You know, find out what they want and give. So B2B on LinkedIn, very powerful. If I was a new business, I'm going to do it with Girl Therapy. I would find out all the key gatekeepers out there at different businesses and find a way to work with them in order to access their communities that are consumers through LinkedIn. In terms of other platforms, Girl Therapy is all about Instagram. We're on Instagram stories, but I'd say particularly for brands, IGTV is still very much early into its takeoff, and it's going to be huge. Yeah.
Now, that leads me on interestingly to my next question, which is, what new technology or software are you most excited about now?
Technology and software. Oh my goodness. I love any tools that curate things really well for me.
Likewise.
So, yes. So anything that can cut the noise for me is fantastic. So I don't know if you know Product Hunt is huge.
No, not ever. Yeah. No.
So Product Hunt basically aggregates and scrapes like the most trending, coolest digital products and tools to use at the moment online. So a bit like, you know, on Google Chrome Store, you can see how all the apps that you can download for your browser and your machine and whatever. Same as like the app store you have for iPhone, and you can see, and they're all rated, and you can see what the best tools are. Product Hunt does that seamlessly, really, really well. So I absolutely love Product Hunt. In terms of technology, I'm not super immersed in technology. I mean, obviously, I'm very, very scared about what's going to happen with VR. That's crazy. I see a lot of next gen VR. I see VR creeping into. So what's interesting is obviously the face of retail is changing a lot at the moment. Direct to consumer slaying it. And the face of retail is changing. So brick and mortar stores, they are starting to use VR actually out on the streets, connected directly to apps on people's phones, to create experiences that are actually outside the physical surrounds, to get people to shop more efficiently. So I'm very excited to see how VR plays a role in retail and people's offline shopping experiences.
Yeah. Did you have a mentor along this journey, or were there any books that you read that helped you in terms of, I know you had the tenacity, you had the determination, you was ready to go, but just in terms of, how did you do it all? Was it from books? Did you have a mentor? I know you said that you had, this gentleman who took you around Shoreditch and gave you little pep talks, but did you have a mentor?
Yeah, so, okay, this is a multi-answerable question, sorry. Yeah. I didn't want to receive any advice from anybody until, I'd say up until a couple of years ago. I'll be super honest about that. I've always been, I don't want any advice from anybody. In the last few years, I've completely done 360 on that. I've realised that is not, having other people's perspectives is key. Don't get me wrong, I've always consumed information that's not related to anybody in my life directly with enthusiasm. But when it's come to me receiving mentorship advice from anybody I've known, my ego has struggled massively with that. Megan, who I mentioned, she's been an incredible mentor to me. I completely look up to her in terms of a business builder in so many ways. I have a good friend actually who I've mentored him and he's mentored me the last few years, called Sam. He now runs a business called Columba, which matchmakes marketing agencies with, I guess, their ideal clients and likewise for the clients. And that's very cool. And he's my age and he's had the same kind of messy journey as I have. And he's very much been my peer in terms of my soundboard for this journey. I'd say every single woman that I've ever interacted with that I care about helping and who I feel I now... let me backtrack. Every woman that I've ever had a touch point with in terms of hearing about her emotional struggle has allowed me to hone my sense of intuition and gut feeling when it comes to writing content to talk to them. So I'd say that every woman I've ever spoken to that is now my customer has been like my most powerful input. In terms of books, because I love books, there have been 2 books that have absolutely changed the game for me. Read a load of books, but these are the 2 that stand out. The One Thing by Gary Keller. Have you read it?
Yep. I got the audiobook of it.
Have you? Yeah. I've read that baby back to front, upside down. I actually went so far as to treat it like I was at university and I had to write a thesis on the book. I loved it. I've told everyone about it. We implemented the processes within the One Thing book at FounderMade. They basically set up the system that's like, it goes GPS, you set up your GPS and you reverse engineer your 5-year goals down to like your monthly, weekly goals, so you can really bake down what your goals need to be now in order to hit the future. And it's just an incredible system, so clear, so concise. I recommend anybody that is struggling with their productivity or development as a business leader in terms of setting up systems that are efficient to get people just to do more quickly and well, and kind of close those gaps in processes in your business. Phenomenal book. I've read it like three times, which is crazy for me because my attention span is 0. So I must really love it. Their podcast is phenomenal, like amazing. And then another book which I recently read, very different because it's not so pragmatic or logical about systems, called it's called Feck Perfection. So you see the play on words there. And that's by a guy called James Victor. Recommend that beyond. It's basically the theory that everybody's terrified and immobilized by fear, and it stops them from doing anything as they would actually do it if they were still like in their child state, so to speak. And so it's just like this all in, like, powerful, like, it's like a children's book. I mean, there's like illustrations and stuff and just these little mantras and word pops. But I cannot tell you, like, tears catching in my throat when I was reading this, like goosebumps. I finished the book feeling so pumped to go into my business. I recently made the decision to not take on any more clients, to not be a graphic designer anymore in the capacity I have been. That was such a frightening decision for me. I have no clue what's going to happen if girl therapy doesn't take off for the next few months. I don't care because I read this book.
It inspired you,
It's become my backbone, and so I really recommend that to people who are struggling in the backbone department in their business.
That sounds good. Oh, cool. Now that leads me, interestingly enough, to another question I ask all my guests as well. Is if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be? So we can rewind, time, and we can meet China when she was 8 years old, maybe even 10 or 12 years old. What would you tell China at 12 years old?
Oh my goodness. It's a hard question, Daryl.
Yeah.
So I'd say in the last year, I've become fearless is the only word I can think of that best fits the way I am in the world now. I love meeting new people, and I'm not frightened to be myself. Being myself has been such a struggle because growing up, I've always felt a little bit different, and I hate it when people say they feel different because everyone's different. We're all very unique. But I felt like I'm too much, and I've had people, my narrative has been, China, you're too much, and you're a lot, and you're crazy, and you're manic. And every time that someone said this to me, it's affirmed it to myself. And now I realise that I just have a lot of energy and I just need to channel it. And channel it I have. And I found a business to do that in. And I've surrounded myself with people I can do that with who love me the way I am.
That's right.
And so I would say to China as my younger self, don't be afraid to be yourself. I know that you have all this imposter syndrome. You're saying to yourself that you're too much, but you're not. You're just growing into your own skin, and just make peace with that. And it's happening, and you don't need to punish yourself. Because when you're 29, you're not going to care anymore. You're going to be fearless. No,
that's a really, really good answer. One of my favourite answers actually that I've had for that question. Now, what's the vision for China Drewitt? What gets you the most excited about the years ahead?
I'm just going to go with what first came into my head when you said that.
Cool.
Buy my dad a boat.
Nice.
I want to buy my dad a boat. He's got a boat, but he would love a big boat he can sail and run, And I'm not money driven. What I am driven is by the idea of helping my dad. And so if making money enables me to do that for him, that for me would be the ultimate success. I feel successful in every minute now anyway, because I'm just so grateful to be alive, so grateful. But was that the question? That would be the dream. Simple, but that's it.
That sounds good. I know that you have a lot of determination and a lot of drive, and you anything you put your hands to, you go for it. So I have no doubt that you would actually achieve that.
Thanks, Daryl.
And finally, where can people connect with you for a consultation or your LinkedIn or website you're around?
Well, I'm going to direct you straight to my love of my life right now, which is girl therapy.
Cool.
I am definitely looking to... I'm trying to find ways to meaningfully partner with resource partners. I'm launching workshops for girl therapy, and I'm looking for businesses that want to come in and present to my extremely curated audience of women that will be in the room that are female-owned business owners and product businesses. So I'm definitely looking to partner with businesses on some level. I'm just looking to meet anyone that wants to get stuck in with girl therapy workshops and get involved and see how we can work together. So my website is girl-therapy.com. You can email me directly at china@girl-therapy.com. And of course, head to the Instagram page @girltherapy and sign up for the texting service if you're a woman that wants a daily self-love pep talk.
Nice. Well, China, thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for being on the show. Everybody else, this has been the Business Marketing Finance Podcast. We'll see you next week.
This is the Business Marketing and Finance Podcast, the podcast for all your business marketing and financial needs. Get insight from experienced professionals as they delve deep into their passions and share their knowledge each week with your host, Daryl James. Like to follow or learn more? You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button now.